April 1975, the destroyer escort USS Kirk, whose mission to protect aircraft carriers from Soviet submarines, became involved in the tumultuous closing days of the Vietnam War.
From far off, the sound of the helo grew louder, portending another emergency landing. But as the aircraft appeared, Kirk's sailors grew apprehensive. This was not a Huey, but a twin-rotor CH-47 Chinook, the largest helicopter in the South Vietnamese inventory. As sailors aboard Kirk tried to quickly figure out a solution, the South Vietnamese pilot, his family, and passengers aboard the Chinook looked to end their journey that began early that morning in a residential neighborhood in Saigon.
I remember in the morning hearing a helicopter come. I grew up hearing helicopters, hearing Hueys and Chinooks, so the sound was very distinguishable, especially the sound of a Chinook, coming towards the house, and the sound getting louder and louder.
I hear the noise from the helicopter. Chinook my husband flew around the house a couple of times. So he landed on the soccer field in the front of my mother-in-law's house. We all get ready, then hurry to get on the Chinook helicopter.
We were to grab our bag, get everything ready, and get on that helicopter. This was basically our chance, our ride out of the war. He said, let's give it a shot. We're going to head out to the Pacific Ocean. I'm hearing U.S. communication, U.S. Navy out there. Let's head in that direction, and let's see how this goes. And eventually saw on the distance the almighty USS Kirk as we know it today.
Crew members frantically waved off the pilot, but he came around for another low pass. This time, they were anxious faces pressed against the helo's plexiglass portholes. Somehow, the pilot made it clear that he would hover the aircraft over Kirk's fantail so his family and passengers could jump to the deck.
Our pilots were back there and visually waving him off because he made his first approach as if to land on the flight deck. He was much too big for the flight deck. His rotors would have impacted the ship catastrophic if he had tried to land.
Mindful of his precious cargo and urgent mission, Nguyen motioned for his co-pilot to open the co-pilot's right-hand door. Lieutenant Commander Richard McKenna, Kirk's executive officer, called for volunteers. Their task would be dangerous. Stand beneath this massive bird with its powerful downwash, trusting its pilot to maintain his position, and then catch or at least break the fall of the passengers, coax the helo perpendicularly across Kirk's fantail, cockpit port, and tail starboard, conscious of his aircraft's rotors. He had to maintain enough height for the rotors to clear the flight deck, yet get low enough to the fantail deck for the passengers to jump from the right door with minimal chance of serious injury. Below the howling rotor-induced hurricane, Kirk's sailors awaited the outcome.
He was 10 to 12, maybe 15 foot above the deck, and that's when the door opened.
I do remember the door opening up and loud, just that, you're right underneath the Chinook rotor, so it's
looked up. As I looked up, I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen, but all of a sudden, here comes a human. It was
quickly followed her down, and as I got toward the edge of the door opened up, edge of the door, looking down, several crewmen, 3 or 4, I believe, all of them with their hands just raising high. It was, it was a happy moment. It was, I would say that's a first step upon freedom, upon stepping on the deck of the USS Kirk.
In the pilot's seat, Ba Nguyen now prepared to execute a maneuver he had never anticipated, ditching at sea. Ba flew a safe distance to starboard of Kirk, and then, using the helicopter's cyclic control between his knees, he eased the helo's 6 tires just feet above the water. With the cyclic control force trim turned on, he was able to keep the huge aircraft in a stable hover while he removed his holstered pistol and struggled out of his flight suit. He then swung the emergency handle on the Chinook's left side door forward 90 degrees, and the panel dropped into the sea. It was now or never. Nguyen depressed the thumb button atop the cyclic, moved the cyclic to the far right, then released the button. As the Chinook suddenly jumped right, Nguyen leaped from the left door into the water, struggling to thrust his body beneath the surface to escape the rotor blades. Unwanted buoyancy forced him back to the surface. In its death throes, the helicopter resembled a whining, angry beast as its rotors exploded in a fury of hurtling shards.
And it was a massive explosion. The rotors went flying off. We were scared because we thought, you know, they might come back toward the ship.
As the helicopter hit the water, I pulled the hatch shut to protect us from any shrapnel that might come off exploding engines and such. And then as I watched the aircraft settle into the water and explode, I swung the door open, and before I could get to the rail to jump into the water, bodies of our Kirk crewmen are jumping into the water. They had taken their shoes off and then jumped fully clothed into the water, and it was just raining people in to save this little man that was floating in the water. The helicopter had almost settled directly on top of him, and our motor whaleboat was racing out to find him.
The helicopter then inverted and sat there for the longest period of time, maybe another 10 minutes, with just the 4 wheels showing above the water in a huge pool of red hydraulic fluid. It was kind of an eerie-looking thing.
I'm a Texas boy, so it reminded me of a dead armadillo. You could just see the 4 little wheels sticking out like a dead armadillo laying there on its back. It was just in the water and the 4 tires sticking out, and it started sinking, and our little motor whaleboat went over and picked the pilot up.
Despite the happy outcome, no deaths and no serious injuries, the frenzied helicopter activity continued.
As life goes by, we always search for meaning and look for love. And why we seem to fall, here we are, not knowing what the future finds. But it's just a matter of time before our rhythm finds a rhyme, before our bells will start to chime, before we end our uphill climb.